You're listening to Greater Good Radio Hawaii, and today's guest is Chris Lee. Mr. Lee is the founding chairman of University of Hawaii's Academy for Creative Media. Please visit us online at greatergoodradio.com. Do you have a global vision for the Academy?
Well, actually, one of the things that I think that we've already jumped to the forefront on is global media studies. This year, 2 years ago, I didn't really have any faculty. This year, we now have about 10. And they're quite distinguished. Some of them are locally born, brought back, and some are people like the Maori filmmaker Mera Tamita, who does our indigenous screenwriting courses. A guy named Joel Moffat, who joined us from AFI and Chapman University, which is one of the leading film schools in the country, and chose to join us. And I think that our focus is on the Pacific Rim. I think that we're going to continue to build a lot of relationships with the countries of Asia, Korea, China, Japan, obviously, and then all through the South Pacific. I think we'll become a magnet for that kind of talent. We'll become known for it. One of the things about the Hollywood film schools like USC and UCLA is everybody wants to be Steven Spielberg, and I don't blame them. And I know that we're going to have our own Steven Spielbergs, or more importantly, what we will have is our own Peter Jackson. And I bring up Peter Jackson, who's the writer-director of the Lord of the Rings trilogies and now doing King Kong, because he was basically supported by the New Zealand Film Commission as a young filmmaker. And then when he became famous in Hollywood, he said, I'm not going to work in Hollywood. Hollywood's going to come to me. So he has almost single-handedly built an enormous industry, not for his own films, but for films like Last Samurai and Chronicles of Narnia, which is coming out, which are now done in New Zealand. So he has created a billion-dollar industry for his home country. And I think that we will see that one of these individuals one of these days is going to say, all right, Hollywood, if you want to work with me, and you're going to have to come to Hawaii to work with me.
Almost like yourself.
Well, I don't know. I'll bring back what I can, but it's a little different. I'm not a creative. I'm not a brilliant writer-director like Bryan Singer or Cameron Crowe or Peter Jackson. But I think what's important is that the idea of the school is to build infrastructure not by continuing to create vendors, but by creating storytellers, by creating an indigenous industry here, so that everybody who does work as a vendor has more work, and you don't have this feast or famine cycle that's based on whether or not Hollywood decides to do a television show here. I come from a sort of a business background. I like the kids competing in the real world. Mm-hmm. And for instance, I think one of the great deals that we did this last year was we worked with Scion Hawaii with Servco Pacific. And the deal that we structured was, because I've gotten some wonderful grants from businesses around town, ABC and the Scheidler folks and the Takayamas that I mentioned. But we worked out this deal where we did 3 commercials for them. And the way the deal worked was this. It was a $50,000 grant from Servco. But I said, I want the kids to earn it, and I want the money to go directly to them. So what we did was we took the advanced class, and we said, they're going to pitch to you, just the way an advertising firm would pitch to you. And they got 12 ideas. 12 different students had 12 different pitches. They bought 3 of them. Okay, so I said, all right, so for the pitch level, $10,000. Okay, and if you don't like any of them, that's it. Don't give me any more money, right? Because we're not going to make the commercials anyways. So, but if you do like them, then we go to the next level. So give me $20,000 to start production on these 3 things, and that's what we did. They bought 3, and everybody crewed around. All the other students crewed around, and all the local production community was fantastic. The crews were fantastic to our kids. And then on delivery,
the whole class works on it.
The whole class works on it, but they divide into three different things.
Okay.
And then on delivery, if we deliver the product and you like it, then there's another $20,000. So it's basically how it works in the real world. You don't really get the money until you deliver the product. You don't just get it just because you're enrolled or something like that. And so they were competing with one another as they will in the real world. They were working with one another as they will in the real world, and they were being as students, because the money goes directly to their production budgets, they were being compensated as they would be in the real world if they delivered a good product. Now, the product was good enough that we're talking with Servco about doing it again next year, and I think it's fantastic. And I think that's an example. I know Hawaii is unbelievably kind when it comes to giving to others. Our proportion of giving compared to the rest of the country is like way off the charts. And locally, of course, local businesses are always being asked to pony up money and make donations and stuff like that, and that's a very important part of our society. But I think when you can combine that with entrepreneurship, I think it's a much better lesson for the students to understand what the competitive environment is really going to be like, and is their product going to stand out, and is it going to work? Because it's one thing to make a movie or a TV show or a commercial or a music video. It's an entirely different thing to have it distributed and seen by people. And that's the only time when you know you've actually done something of quality, because you get a response from the audience. And from what I can tell, because the commercials are still running, they must like them, because I don't think they'd put up commercials they would think would be negative for their product. So I think it was a win-win for both sides, and I think that's hopefully that's sort of a template that we'll be able to do. Now I've got a lot of requests from people saying, can we come and do a wedding video and stuff like that, and that doesn't interest me at all, obviously, because there's lots of great wedding video firms, and we're not here to compete with all the great existing companies out there. But on the other hand, in moving us beyond into narrative story, this is an opportunity to tell a story in 30 seconds or 15 seconds is much harder than 90 minutes. So that's a wonderful challenge and the opportunity of a deal like the Scion deal.
Well, thank you, Chris, for joining us today on Greater Good Radio Hawaii. For more information on today's show, please visit us online at greatergoodradio.com. This is your host, Evan Leong, saying please join us next time for another episode of Greater Good Radio Hawaii,